So, what do you think of her? Maya tilted her head like she was genuinely curious. Her glossy lips curled into a smirk as she leaned closer to me, pointing at the girl wrapped around her arm. She's into yoga and modeling. Total opposite of you, huh? I blinked once.
Twice.
My throat went dry, but I didn't let her see the sting. I smiled. She's cute.
That was all I said.
Inside, my heart was sinking like a stone. Not because she had moved on, but because I knew this wasn't love. This was a performance.
She wanted me to ache. She wanted me to watch.
I looked around the room. Half of our old friends were watching too, waiting for my reaction, waiting for me to crumble. But I didn't. I stayed calm. I stayed still. Maya whispered something to her new girl and laughed, loudly on purpose. And, in that moment, I realized something far more painful than her betrayal. She didn't love me anymore. She just missed the control. My name is Avery Monroe. I grew up in a small town in North Carolina, but everything really changed for me when I moved to Portland for college. That's where I met Maya Hastings. She was the kind of girl who could stop a room, not because she was loud or flashy, but because she had this effortless cool about her. Vintage denim, tattoos that meant something, and the kind of sarcasm that made people laugh without realizing they'd been insulted. And somehow she wanted me around. We met at orientation, both waiting in line for student IDs. I remember dropping my phone and her picking it up before I could. She smiled and said, "Clumsy or nervous?" I replied, "Both." She laughed, linked her arm with mine, and said, "Come on, let's survive this circus together." That was the beginning of everything. At first, being friends with Maya felt like winning a lottery I didn't buy a ticket for. She introduced me to thrifted fashion, indie bands, poetry slams in basements, and art galleries that served boxed wine. Her world was loud and beautiful, and I was grateful just to be part of it. She had this way of making people feel chosen. But I learned, slowly, that Maya's version of choosing you came with strings. It started small. When we both got invited to a Halloween party sophomore year, I planned to go as a pirate. Maya, 2 days before, decided she wanted to go as a pirate too, and made it clear I needed to change my idea. "We can't match," she said. "That's so try hard." I switched to a skeleton last minute. When I landed an internship at a nonprofit she'd applied to, but didn't get, she said, "You'll probably hate it. They just want someone to fill a diversity quota anyway." I laughed it off, pretending I didn't hear the sting in her voice. And when I started dating Liam, my first real boyfriend, Maya's smiles got tighter. She'd mock him behind his back, call him boring, tell me I could do better. I thought she was just being protective. But in hindsight, she was jealous, not of Liam, but of my attention drifting from her. Our friendship became a balancing act I didn't sign up for. I celebrated her wins loudly, clapped the hardest when her art got displayed downtown, stayed up with her through her breakups, proofread her essays at 2 a.m., covered for her when she missed classes. But when it was my turn, when my mother got diagnosed with breast cancer, Maya sent a single text. "That sucks. Let me know if you need anything." And then she ghosted me for 4 days. I still remember sitting on my bathroom floor, silently sobbing, phone in hand, wondering how someone who knew everything about me could suddenly be absent. The truth is, I kept excusing her because I loved her. Not romantically, though maybe at one point it was that too. But more than that, Maya felt like family. Chosen family. The kind I thought would never leave. We had inside jokes, matching tattoos, a shared Spotify playlist called Our Chaos. We talked about moving to New York together after graduation. We'd whispered dreams into the dark, hers about gallery shows and mine about writing a memoir one day. I thought those dreams were safe between us. But it turns out they weren't. The big fracture came senior year. We were living in a 2-bedroom apartment off campus. At that point, Maya had a new girlfriend almost every other month. She didn't take relationships seriously, and she definitely didn't believe in commitment. But then there was Jenna. Jenna was different. She was kind, stable, and sweet. She made Maya tea when she had cramps. She laughed at Maya's bad jokes.
She even baked.
One day, I came home and found Jenna crying on our couch. Maya had vanished after a fight. No text. No call. Just gone. I sat with Jenna until 3 a.m., wrapped her in blankets, and let her talk. I didn't take sides, I just listened. Apparently, Maya didn't like that. The next morning, she stormed in, glared at me, and said, "So now you're her therapist too? Didn't realize you needed a backup best friend." That was the first time I saw the ugliness in her. Not just the sarcasm, the control, the possessiveness. I should have walked away then, but I didn't. Even after college, we stayed in touch. She moved to Seattle, started a tattoo apprenticeship. I stayed in Portland, began working as a junior editor. We didn't talk daily anymore, but I still called her on birthdays. Still sent Christmas cards. Still felt that pull, like I owed her something. Like I couldn't leave her behind. And then, out of the blue, she came back. Thinking of moving back to Portland, she texted one day, "Wanna grab coffee?" And just like that, I was 17 again, grinning at my phone, forgetting everything she'd made me feel. We met at our favorite cafe. She was glowing, cropped hair, new piercings, talking about some art show she was curating. And sitting beside her was a girl named Tessa. Tall, stunning, confident. The kind of girl who takes up space without apologizing. "This is my girlfriend," Maya said, eyes locked on me like she was daring me to react. I shook Tessa's hand, smiled, played nice. But the whole time, Maya kept glancing at me, throwing little digs masked as jokes. "She's vegan, Avery. Not like your chicken nugget obsession. She reads real poetry, not Instagram quotes. She actually gets my art." And Tessa? She laughed. Not because it was funny, but because she didn't know the history. She didn't know that Maya had once told me I was the only person who got her. That we used to spend hours dissecting Sylvia Plath and sketching on diner napkins. That once upon a time, we weren't just friends, we were soulmates, in some way words can't explain.
But now?
Now I was a joke. And Maya wanted me to watch her move on, loudly, performatively, destructively. That was 2 months ago. Since then, she's posted selfies with Tessa almost daily. Tagged locations we used to go. Captions like "Real love feels like home." One time, she posted a throwback of us and wrote, "Funny how people change. Some people were just chapters, not endings." It wasn't subtle. She wanted me to hurt. She wanted me to break. But instead, something inside me began to wake up. And for the first time in our long, tangled history, I began to pull away. 3 weeks after that cafe meetup, I got a notification. "Maya tagged you in a post." My heart dropped. It was a photo of us. From college. I was asleep on her shoulder during a road trip, mouth slightly open, hair a mess, the kind of vulnerable, goofy moment only someone close would have a picture of. Her caption read, "People never realize when they're the side character." No emoji. No context. Just a perfectly timed dagger. I didn't comment.
I didn't like.
I just stared at it, blinking back that old sting. There were already laughing reactions, one of her art friends replying, "LMAO savage." Another commented, "Avery who?" And Tessa? She left a row of fire emojis and a winking face. I wasn't even angry, just stunned. It was one thing to pull away. It was another to be erased or worse, mocked, by someone who used to know the sound of my laugh, the way I counted steps when I was nervous, the playlist I made for her first gallery opening. I sat there in my apartment, laptop open, my cold coffee untouched, wondering, why does she need to humiliate me to feel whole? I didn't respond publicly. But inside, I began sorting through memories like old boxes in an attic. All the times I gave, and she took. All the tiny cuts I had ignored. Every joke that was really a jab. Every time I let her be the star and shrank myself into her shadow. And then the messages started. Not from her. From mutual friends. "Hey, are you okay?" I saw her post. "You didn't deserve that. She's spiraling. Don't take it personal." But it was personal. I hadn't done anything to her. I hadn't betrayed her. ghosted her, badmouthed her. All I had done was stop orbiting around her. Apparently, that was enough to become the enemy. One night, around 11 p.m., I got a voice note from Maya. Her voice was smooth, a little slurred. "I know you probably think I'm some kind of villain, but you were never really there for me. Not really. You only liked me when I was broken, when I needed you. You couldn't handle me being happy."
Click.
I replayed it, over and over. Not because I believed it, but because it was such a twisted rewrite of everything we'd been. I had carried her through darkness, held her hand after panic attacks, covered for her when she missed rent. And now I was being rewritten into some jealous, bitter ghost haunting her new life? I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have words, but because I was done explaining myself to people who had already made up their minds. Still, part of me ached. It's a strange thing grieving someone who's still alive. I'd see her posts pop up, dancing at parties, kissing Tessa, painting huge canvases with phrases like "unbothered queen" splattered across them in neon spray paint. It all looked like power. But when I looked closer, it reeked of performance. Even her new best friend, a girl named Lana, started mimicking Maya's style, same haircut, same thrifted jackets, same oversized hoop earrings.
And Maya?
She reposted her constantly, captions like, "True sisters find each other." It stung.
Of course it did.
We used to call each other soul sisters. Now I was just a memory with a punchline. A week later, my phone buzzed again. Lana had posted a TikTok, "When your bestie upgrades from toxic energy broom sparkles nail polish." And in the background, a photo of me and Maya at graduation. Blurred, but visible. A wave of laughter in the comments. Clown emojis. People I didn't even know reposting it. I just sat there in my living room, the glow of my laptop casting soft shadows, trying to breathe. For a moment, I felt 15 again. That same invisible girl from high school who got picked last in gym class, who stayed home while others partied, who never knew where she fit. But this time, I caught it. I caught the narrative being written about me. And I rejected it. I shut my phone off, logged out of Instagram, deleted TikTok. And I cried. Not because of them, but because I was finally done letting people treat me like I was small. Maya wanted me to chase her. She wanted me to defend myself, to post something petty, to beg for understanding. But all I felt was tired. Tired of holding on to people who were okay with letting me go. Tired of shrinking myself to keep someone else from feeling insecure. Tired of believing that loyalty meant enduring emotional warfare. So that night, I chose silence. Not as surrender, but as self-respect. I spent the next few days in quiet. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't rant to my roommate, Olivia. I didn't post a taking a break story. I just disappeared. I read more. I journaled. I cooked for myself. I watered my plants. It was like I was slowly returning to someone I hadn't met in years, myself. Then came the final blow. A mutual friend, Taylor, texted, "Hey, just wanted you to know. Maya's throwing an art show next week." And she titled it, Exhibit A, Ghosts from My Past. Her opening piece is a painting of you. I stared at the message. And for once, I didn't flinch. I just laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was pathetic. She was still performing. Still painting me as the villain, the sad ex-friend who couldn't keep up. But here's the thing. I wasn't in the audience anymore. I had left the theater. When I say I transformed, I don't mean I just changed my look. I rebuilt myself from the inside out. After Kennedy's little display, I could have shrunk. I could have cried in the corner and convinced myself I wasn't enough. But that wasn't going to be my story. I remember one night, a week after that party, sitting on the bathroom floor with my knees tucked to my chest, staring at the mirror. My eyes were puffy, and I looked hollow. I whispered to my reflection, "No one is coming to save you, Kayla. So you better become someone worth saving." That night became my turning point. I started with therapy. Not the glamorous glow-up people post online, but the real, raw kind that forces you to look at your wounds. I needed to understand why I let people like Kennedy get to me, why I believed that her approval mattered more than my peace. Then came the physical. I didn't start working out to look good for anyone. I did it because I wanted to feel strong. Every drop of sweat on that treadmill felt like I was burning away a version of me that used to settle. Every sore muscle reminded me that change hurts, but it's worth it. I changed my diet, took care of my skin, started journaling daily, and spent more time outdoors than online. I took long walks without my phone, listening to nothing but my thoughts and the occasional birdsong. Nature healed me more than any text ever could. Academically, I turned laser-focused. I switched my major to business and marketing, something I'd always been too scared to try because I thought I wouldn't measure up. But this time, I didn't care about measuring up. I just cared about doing what lit me up inside. I started interning at a small digital agency, and for the first time, I was being mentored by women who lifted each other instead of tearing one another down. My confidence grew. Not overnight. It was a slow build, like bricks stacked carefully on a foundation that no longer cracked under pressure. And with that confidence came a whole new energy. People noticed. The same girls who used to walk past me in the student center without a glance now nodded at me or struck up casual conversation. I didn't let it get to my head, though, because now I knew the difference between being seen and being valued. And then, as fate would have it, my path crossed with Kennedy's again. It was at a campus networking mixer. I had been invited to speak on a student panel about social media branding. I stepped up in my tailored blazer and jeans, sleek ponytail, and calm composure. As I scanned the room, I spotted her near the refreshment table. She looked the same, maybe a little tense, like someone who was watching the spotlight shift and realizing she was no longer in it. Our eyes met, and for a second, I expected the old rush of insecurity to come flooding back. But it didn't, because I wasn't the same Kayla she used to bait with petty games. After the panel, people approached me, asking questions, taking notes, even asking for my contact info for future collaborations. Kennedy hovered nearby, but never stepped forward. She was no longer center stage. She was watching from the sidelines. And I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to rub it in. Because the best kind of comeback doesn't need an announcement. It just shows up, glows up, and lets the silence speak louder than any words ever could. Everything shifted the day I stopped looking at her and started looking inward. One afternoon, as I sat alone in my tiny apartment in Seattle, I pulled out my sketchbook, something I hadn't done in years. Drawing used to be my peace, my anchor. But ever since Jessica re-entered my life, that peace had been buried under a mountain of comparison, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion. As my pencil danced across the page, I felt something open inside me, a kind of remembering of who I used to be before the noise, before the games, before Jessica's constant presence in my head. That evening, I made a decision. No more lurking on her stories, no more wondering if her laughter was real, or if that guy she kept posting was just another attempt to get to me. I muted her on every platform and promised myself I wouldn't look back. Instead, I poured my time into my art. I started uploading time-lapse videos of my drawings on TikTok, just for fun. I didn't expect anything to happen, but within a week, one of my videos went viral. Suddenly, my inbox was full of commissions, followers, collaborations. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. I wasn't chasing anyone. I wasn't proving anything. I was just me. A month later, I got an email from a gallery in Los Angeles. They had seen my work online and wanted to feature my illustrations in an upcoming exhibit titled Reinvention. I almost dropped my coffee when I read it. Reinvention. That's exactly what this was. I was being reborn. I flew down to LA for the exhibit and spent the weekend surrounded by creatives, people who spoke in brushstrokes and dreams. One of them, a photographer named Eden, noticed a portrait I had done of a woman in a red coat looking back over her shoulder. "There's pain in her eyes," she said, "but also power." That's when I realized I had drawn Jessica. Not out of longing, but out of closure. The night of the exhibit, I posted a picture of myself beside my art, smiling with genuine joy. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't need to. But she saw it. 2 hours later, I got a DM from Jessica.
Wow.
"You're really doing it. Proud of you. No emojis. No flirting.
Just that.
And I didn't reply. That was the moment I knew the power had shifted. She wasn't the main character in my story anymore. I was. And she was watching from the sidelines. The room was buzzing with energy as the lights dimmed, and the host took the mic to announce the winners. I stood at the side of the ballroom, my hands clasped in front of me, heart pounding. It was the Regional Women in Tech Awards, and my startup, VibeTrack, a mental health AI platform, had been nominated for Innovator of the Year. I spotted Madison across the room. She was in a gold dress, glued to the arm of a new guy, another flavor of the month finance bro. But her eyes? Locked on me. It wasn't envy that made me smirk. It was clarity. They announced my name. Sierra Monroe. The crowd erupted into applause, and as I walked toward the stage, everything slowed. I could see her face in the crowd, expression frozen, lips slightly parted, like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Oh, she had tried. She had tried hard to break me, to reduce me to some insecure, bitter ex-friend pining for what she had. She had paraded her new boyfriends, her vacation pics, her fashion deals all over social media. But while she was busy crafting perfect Instagram moments, I was crafting something real. The applause didn't die down. I took the mic with calm gratitude, breathing into the moment I'd once dreamed of in silence. I stand here not just for this award, I said, but for every woman who was underestimated, replaced, or mocked, only to rise beyond what anyone expected. Cheers echoed. Somewhere in the crowd, I caught a glimpse of my parents, beaming with pride. And beside them, Jack. Yes, the same Jack who once went along with Madison's games. He was no longer the boy I used to cry over. He was now just someone who understood what he'd lost. After the ceremony, a line of people approached me, including VCs, media folks, and fellow founders. And Madison? She hovered nearby, but didn't come close. Not really. Not in any way that mattered. Eventually, as the room cleared out, she approached. Not to apologize.
Not to celebrate me.
But to confirm, to see for herself, that I had become someone she could no longer manipulate. Congratulations, she said, forcing a smile. Thanks, I replied, my voice steady. You always said I was too sensitive. Turns out that sensitivity built something meaningful. She nodded.
Hollow. Silent.
Watching. She had front row seats, but to a show she wasn't part of anymore. Because this was my moment. My rise. And she was just watching from the sidelines.